Mic check. Hello, people. Mic check. Hold on.
Not working, sir.
Uh, are you hearing me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Okay. Welcome to this Saturday morning. I mean, Saturday evening edition of class. All right. All right. So, how did your crit go? It was a death crit, was it?
No, sir. Final.
It was final crit for your first project, right?
Yes, sir.
Which was which one was that again? Climbing?
Ritual.
Oh, ritual. Right. Okay, cool. All right, cool. And who wants to share an experience? How was it?
What you say, sir?
Who wants to
Sir,
share?
it was good.
Okay, cool. What time did that studio finish?
Late
Yeah, like
Like-
after 7.
to 8, more like, but yeah.
Yeah. Why? Well, guys, can I tell you that one of the hardest lessons that maybe you'll have to learn throughout your 4 or 7 years, depending on 4 or 6 years, depending on how long you decide to go, is how to receive feedback. You know, like I just it just brings back memories, in terms of when you present your work and you get feedback on the work. But can I tell you a secret, guys? When you guys leave and you start do some work on your own, like you're going to beg people to have the time to share their opinion on your work. Like, and I'm not even joking. It might sound weird because all you guys do is a lot of critiques and presentations and and sometimes it turns out that you have to go back to the drawing board and do some more stuff and but I'm telling you, just mark it in your calendar on this day, right? And then fast forward maybe 10 years later, or not so 10, not so much, maybe 7 years later, and maybe you're doing a project for yourself, or maybe it's your first client, or somebody link you up on a job or something, and you just like, and you start to wonder, boy, I wonder if this design will work. It look like it will work, and you're just dying for some feedback. Like, where can I get some feedback? Because the truth is that when you start to work on your own and you do up something and you feel nice, this design, yeah man, everything work, you spend hours and you sort it out and everything, and then you will just show a friend or show you, I don't know, your family member, and they're like, so how do I get into the bathroom if I was to enter from this door? And then you're like, oh crap. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I guess what? That is something what plagues any area of design. If you're a person who builds stuff with your hands, or you're a person who paint, or a person that builds 3D things, or you have a thing called fatigue, designer's fatigue. When you're looking at something too long, you are more susceptible. The longer you look at something, the more you're susceptible to making errors. Right? It's just a weird thing with us humans. I don't know if that ever, and that ever happened to you guys. You're looking at something for 10 hours and somebody just look at it for 5 minutes and just say, hey, oh, you missed this little thing. That happened to anybody?
Yes, sir.
Right. So what happens is that the older you get, the more that plagues you, especially when the stakes are high. So you're doing something and somebody's paying you money to do it, or it's going to cost you money going to come out of your pocket to do it. You say to yourself, what simple thing am I missing in this design? You know, whether it's a piece of architecture or is a flyer design or some kind of artwork. You know, like what am I missing? Because you just know that because you've been looking at this thing so long, there might be some very simple things that you're missing. And that is when you're going to be like, Jano, I wish I had a friend who could just look over this work and just tell me what they think. You know what I mean? And then you think about all that free critique that you got in CSA. You see, cause trust me, you can't call up none of those lecturers when you're done CSA, you know. They're going to say,
Sir,
I charge by the hour.
sir.
Yeah, man, what's up?
Free critique is crazy. You see that school fee? That tuition? Okay.
Well, that is true. But I'm telling you, it is very valuable. Like, even today when I do designs, it might be something small, like an entryway for something, or you know, and a client might ask you, hey, can you give me an idea for this office space? And you do up something and you say, yeah, man, it look nice. Like, I don't present unless I get some feedback from a friend or a fellow lecturer or so. And it is hard to get people's time. I mean, you pay for, as you say, you pay for it in school. But when you're done school, I'm telling you, all of you that are classmates now, you are going to be, chances are you're going to be your fellow schoolmates person that you can lean on and say, hey, what do you think about this design? Like, you know what I mean? Because your reputation is on the line and you don't want, because of some like very silly mistake, you know, and you ask your friend, hey, what do you think of this entryway? You know, just to make sure you're not missing that one critical thing. And after a couple of years, you get used to it. Like, the more you do it, the less you have to seek advice, you know. But it takes a while to get to that stage. It takes a while. So, I'm just saying, when it comes to critique, I know that it might seem like, you know, persons might tear down your design. And even fast forward years after, you will still kind of feel that way because you spend so much time on this thing and so much thought. And somebody just say, yeah, but you sure you want to do it that way? And you're just like, what are you talking about? I just spend like 20 hours working out this thing. What do you mean if I sure want to do it this way? Anyway, enough of my blabbering. All right, guys. So I see most of us are here now. So we're continuing our journey here. Last time you guys did a Photoshop exercise, right? From some of your comments, I found that some of you found it interesting, some of you found it fun. A few of you had some computer problems. Today we're moving in, we're done with Photoshop. I mean, we're done with it as it relates to exercise, and we're moving to, who can tell me what's the next software we're moving to?
Illustrator.
Exactly. Moving to Illustrator. Perhaps the underdog of graphic design. Because when you hear of the word graphics in the movies or on YouTube or wherever, you hear Photoshop, 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 you know? Ah, that girl looks so nice, look like she Photoshop. Ah, that guy looks so cute, look like him Photoshop. Like, you Photoshop, the word Photoshop is a part of our culture, literally. You know what I mean? We associate it with things that look maybe too good, too pretty, or too extra, or whatever. But we don't associate the word Illustrator. You know what I mean? It might sound a little weird. And some persons here maybe has never even heard of Illustrator, right? So I call it the kind of underdog. But what I want to start off with is to tell you why Illustrator. right? And to introduce you to a world of no pixels. If you think about everything we've done up to this time period in graphics, in digital design, we've been talking about pixels. We talk about resolution, we talk about image size, we talk about how stuff look blurry because you need more pixels. We know that the more pixels we're able to cram in a smaller area, the sharper an image will be. The closer you are to that image, the more blurry it would look. The farther away you are, the more not blurry it will look. But in the world of pixels, there is a limit. We know that it don't matter how big an image is, it is made of pixels, and you can always zoom right down to the pixel. That is what we've learned so far. So no image is 100% sharp. It just means you just have to zoom in more to see those pixels. And if you can't see those pixels, then that image could be defined as not blurry, right? So that's what we've learned so far. So I want to introduce you guys to a world where pixels don't matter, right? A world where it's impossible for something to be blurry. And for those of you that know graphics, you might be saying, well, sir, that's impossible because everything is made of pixels. So nothing can never be not blurry. You know, you just zoom in and, you know, if you're close enough, you will eventually see the pixels. And if there's so much pixels that your eyeballs can't see it, then you can just put it in a program like Photoshop and then zoom to the pixels. You know what I mean? So I want to show you an image of an SUV here. Is it this one? No, not this one. This one. No, not that one. Hold on, let me find the right image. I think it's this one. Yeah, here we go. All right, cool. Can you guys see this image on your screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. I mean, no, I'm looking at this image. This car look kind of old, but anyway, doesn't matter. We don't business about the car. But we can see that it's a SUV, and we can see that it's an image, right? And if I ask the question again to Jason and say, Jason, this image here, when I look on the information, it says that it is 1,600 pixels by 600 by 968 pixels. Is Jason here?
Yes, sir.
Right. And if I said to you, Jason, what do you think of this image? Is it sharp? What would your what would your response be?
I think it could have been sharper, sir.
Not the response that I'm looking for. Let's try it now with, who was the first person to Khalifa, right. Khalifa, when I show you this image and I say, is this image sharp? What would your response be? Or what should your response be?
Sir. What would my response be?
Yeah. Is
No,
it a
what
sharp
should my
image?
response be?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not a sharp image.
Why?
As Jason said, I just feel like it could be sharper. Honestly.
All right, hold on. Somebody have them hand up. Who was it? Oh, no? Okay. All right, I'm opening it out. Who want to tell me what should the response be? If I ask you, is this image sharp enough? What should your response be? Who want to try?
Sir, it depends on where it's presented.
You said
If
it.
we're close
You
or
said
far
it.
enough from.
Hold on, no. You said it in the first two words. What was it?
It depends.
It depends. That is it. That should be your answer. Because over the last couple of days, we learned that an image is not really sharp or blurry. If it's going to go on a phone screen, it's sharp. If you're going to go on a billboard, it's probably going to be blurry. If you're going to go on my presentation in studio, based on the resolution, it's probably going to be blurry. But if it's going to go in the left-hand corner of my sheet, where it's no bigger than maybe 2 inches by 2 inches, it's going to be sharp. So the answer to the question should be depends, right? So just remember that, because you guys know that, you know, it's just a matter of how much pixels are there. So anyway, this image is 1600 by 900 and something. So as usual, it don't matter how much pixels you cram into an image, eventually you can zoom into where you will see the pixels, right? And you know what? This is probably looking, because you know, when you watch it through Zoom, it's compressing the image. So I'll show you in Photoshop. If I should open this image in Photoshop, I can zoom right down until you see the individual pixels, right? Just like what we did before. So the answer is that if I'm looking at this image far away like this, yeah man, the image is sharp enough. But if I'm going to be viewing it like this, it's like, no, it's going to be blurry. So the answer is it depends. However, and let me show you evidence of that before I introduce you guys to this thing here, right? So here we are, right? So this is good old Photoshop here. And if we open this image here, right, so we can zoom all the way down until you see the pixels. You guys can see the pixels, right? It's not too blurry for zoom.
Yes, sir.
Right. But what if I told you that there is a type of image that has no pixels? Meaning that it's impossible for it to get blurry. And that type of image does exist. And I'm going to show you now. Here it is. The same picture of the same SUV. Here we go. Let me close these other tabs. There we go. Can I view it in this program? No, not this program. View it in. Ta-da-da-da-da. There we go. Right. Here we go. Same image, right? Same image or similar, same vehicle. But here, this has no pixels. So it doesn't matter how much I want to zoom. I could zoom some more. I could zoom some more. I could zoom more. Let's see if I can zoom some more. Can you guys see any pixels?
No, sir.
Exactly. Let me try and zoom out here, all the way out. So if I take the corner of this mirror right here and I zoom some more, I zoom some more, zoom some more. Actually, I can't zoom anymore, I'm like stuck. But I could zoom to the infinity. So this is a type of image. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them side by side. Let me see if I can. Yeah, let me open it in. Yeah, let me open it in Adobe. Right, let me open it in a PDF viewer. All right. And then I will show you this one here. Right, here we go. So I'll put it in PDF. And I'll put this guy over here. Wait, let's change this to double. Yeah. Put this guy here, and I put this guy here. There we go. I zoom. Yeah. All right. So Leon, is Leon here?
Yes, sir.
What do you think of these two images? Which one look more real?
I'm certainly the one on the
The one with
more recent.
the one with the background.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So let me try zoom into a part that is similar. Maybe okay. Yeah. Let me zoom into the rear view mirror with this design right here. And let me zoom into the rear view mirror right here. Right. So we're not looking at the background and anything here. So right. All right. So who else is it? Ian, are you here to the Ian there? No, I don't see Ian yet. Okay. All right. Tara here. Tara?
Sir?
Yeah, man. You see the two images?
Yes, sir.
All right. No. We already established that the one on the left look a little bit more real. Why is that?
Because of the lighting, sir, and the reflection.
Aha, true. The one on the right have a little bit of lighting and reflection, but it's clear that the one on the left look more photorealistic, and the one on the right kind of look like what? Like
Factory mode. Like they never take it out and it's like white all around and they take picture. But it don't have any context.
Right. So, but even though the one on the right don't have any context, it still have a kind of, and I want to say the word, cartoony look. Anybody notice that? Have a little bit of a cartoony look.
Yes, sir.
Right.
I was going to say that it was created in Illustrator.
Right. Like even if you look on the lights here, you can see the one on the. I mean, it look sharp, but you can see that it have more of a cartoony look. And you know, they say everything in life has a price. So on the right, you have an image that has no size limit. Like you could print this as large as a billboard or as small as a business card. It will always be 100% sharp. There is no pixels in there, so there's no need to work out. Hold on, would this image be sharp enough if I put it on my 24 by 36 for my presentation? Will it be sharp enough? It will always be. Whereas the one on the left, you have to work it out because the screen, as we talked about before, if you look on a pixeled image, if you look at an image made of pixels on a screen, that doesn't really tell you what it will be like in the real world, right? It will look nice and pretty on your screen, but when you print it in the real world, it looks blurry. At small sizes, that don't really matter, but for you guys, when you put it on your big 24 by 36 sheets, it does matter. Now here we're talking about a new kind of image technology, and it's called vector, right? So on the left hand side, you have what's made up of pixels, and let me show you, where is this thing here? Photoshop, right? On the left, we have what's made up of pixels. So as you guys see, if I zoomed in far enough, you can clearly see those pixels, right? Let me go find where the light is. Right, there you go. So you can see these pixels here, and on the right hand side, you have what's called vectors. So vector is a type of technology that it doesn't use pixels. What it uses is lines, right? In a way, what it's really using is algorithms, but we'll get to that in a minute. The fact is that what this is made up of is lines. So for example, in Photoshop, if I go to the paint tool and I choose to draw card, and I choose to draw a line here across the light, you can see where this line is made up of pixels. That's why you make up this line. However, if I do that in Illustrator, right here, let me zoom in back to the same location here, and I do that in Illustrator. I use my line tool, and I need to make it a little thick. Where is that window go? Oh, here it is. Yeah, there we go. Ta-da, ta-da. Just ignore what I'm doing here now. I'm just demonstrating here. Come on. Oops, drew too much lines. Yeah, let's make that like 3. There we go. Right. So that same black line that I drew in Illustrator, you can see where it is 100% sharp. All right, you guys see the clear difference? One is made up of pixels, the other is made up of vectors. So in the world of graphics, you have graphics that's made up of pixels and graphics that's made up of vectors. Vector graphics does not use pixels, but the trade-off is it's not able to capture as accurate light information like pixels. So for example, when you guys use your camera, and for anybody here into photography? Any photography people? Right. So when you use your camera and your camera captures the light, that's really what the camera is capturing. It then represents those lights. It divides up what it sees into a bunch of square dots, which are pixels. So when you take an image, you are able to individually determine, and let me zoom all the way in, this dot should be light green, this dot should be a little darker green, this dot should be lighter, this one should be more gray, this one is closer to white. Like the camera can individually detect points of light in reality and then represent those points as individual pixels. Now, to date, there is no camera device that is able to do that with vectors, because at the end of the day, vectors are just made up of lines. They are not pixels. So there is no, what do I say now, technology that can represent what you see in reality and transfer that to line work. So when I say line work, meaning that if I click on anything here, it's really just made up of a bunch of lines, right? I need to release this. Hold on, give me a second here. Ungroup, ungroup, ungroup. There we go. Right. So everything here is made up of a bunch of line work. Let me remove this line that I created earlier. Zoom into the individual line work here. All right, here we go. There we go. Right. So everything is individual line work. Literally lines that you can edit. Can anybody tell me what is this similar to? What other application?
The Warp Pro?
No, what software is this similar to that you guys use in architecture?
SketchUp?
Yes, ish. And AutoCAD.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. So really and truly, what Illustrator is, it's just a more artistic version of AutoCAD. That's literally what it is here. Because everything here is made up of individual lines, right? AutoCAD is a vector software, meaning that you can't draw pixels in AutoCAD, right? Whereas Photoshop is not a vector software, right? You can do a little bit of vector drawing in Photoshop, but Photoshop by and large is a what you call a pixel. The another name for that is raster. So if you see the word raster, that's ER, or pixels, you're talking about these square dots. When you say the word vector, you're talking about these lines, right? Now, obviously, how this picture was made was not by a camera. Like somebody didn't snap a picture to get this vehicle like this. Somebody sat down and somebody, not me, and painstakingly drew every single line in order to make up this vehicle. What do you think, guys? Sounds crazy? Right.
A bit.
Right. All of the details that you're seeing here, the person drew. Yeah.
So it's annoying because it's paid to do it. It's paid to do it, sir. So it's not crazy.
There you go. That is, I'm glad you brought up that point. Because there are artists out there who do vector artwork. Can anybody tell me why would you do artwork in vector? Obviously, it's much harder. Why would you do it?
Sir, for logos.
Right? Well, that is kind of a purpose of what it's used for, but why? Why would I create artwork using vector?
Probably it's more detailed, sir.
Yeah, you get a half mark for that. Yeah, it is more well, actually quarter mark, because you can still do detail work in Photoshop. You just have to do it with lots of pixels. Why would I?
Sure.
Or should be for more refinement, I guess.
You get another quarter mark for that. More refinement.
Sir.
Yeah.
So when it's in vector, we wouldn't have to do any calculations if we want to put this particular thing on a billboard or on a post or something like that.
Right, that is exactly
right?
so. Exactly. So you get most marks for that. It is what you call resolution independent. When you build something in vector, you never have to worry about what resolution it is, ever. And that might sound like a small thing, you know, it's like, I mean, if I need to put a picture on the front cover of my essay document, it doesn't have to be vector. I can just Google a picture and use it, which is no problem. But in the cases, like, think about drawings, right? Sometimes you do drawings, sometimes you do floor plans and elevations. And those elevations need to be printed on large 24 by 36 or 42 wide documents. And sometimes they need to go in smaller presentation documents. Maybe you're doing a study on something and you need to put drawings in the document. For example, when you guys go on to do your master's and you do your thesis project, you're going to have to do a document. And the document going to need to have your drawings. But in addition to that, you're going to have to pin up 21 sheets of drawings in order to graduate as well. So those drawings that you create are going to be needed to be small and large. Now, if you created those drawings in Photoshop, if you drew your floor plan and your elevations in Photoshop, I'm not saying in Photoshop application, but if you drew it in a pixel-based application, then that means there would be limits to how large you can print your drawings. And I don't know if you get, well, you would probably see an example, hopefully, well, not hopefully, maybe going forward in CSA, you will see people pin up drawings and the line work just look kind of smudged, like it don't look sharp. And you're going to see some people pin up some drawings and the line work just look like it will cut your hand, like very sharp. And the person who pin up the drawing, like if you take two identical elevations, one that is quote unquote high resolution, meaning when you work out the calculation, you say, yeah, man, when I print this at this size, it will be 100% sharp. And you pin up your elevation. And you have the other person who did it as a vector drawing, who never need to do any calculation, and they pin up that drawing. When you look on those two drawings, it doesn't matter how sharp, how large your pixel image is, the vector image will always look sharper, right? So in a way, vector images has like the highest quality whenever you're, especially when you're printing. On the screen, it don't necessarily matter. The screen is a tricky realm because you can zoom in and zoom out and that kind of stuff. But for printing, vector wins the day. And this is why all architectural programs are vector, right? Because when you draw something, you want to reproduce that thing that you draw at multiple sizes. And going forward, this is going to be a theme that you use throughout when you're doing my course. Like, you're going to come into situations where you're doing graphics and you're going to now be choosing between, should it be pixel or should it be vector? Should I use Photoshop or should I use Illustrator? Right? And a lot of it will be based, your decision will be based on what does the output, how am I going to use the output, right? Now, the one reason why you would use pixels, as I say, is because pixels look more photorealistic. Like when you look at this image, even if it's not about the background, even if you look at something like the wheels right here, and you look at the wheels down here, right? Like the realism and the ability to mimic real world light, pixels will always top that. So that is one reason why sometimes we have to use pixels. All right, guys. Okay, any questions so far? You guys following? Everybody understand clearly the difference between images and vector? Right?
So images and vector.
Between
That's how
pixels.
different.
Well, let me say it this way: between pixels and vector.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I get it.
Sir.
So. Oh yeah, a question.
Yes, sir. I have a stupid question to ask.
There is no stupid question, so go on, continue.
Sir, wouldn't a vector just be considered just a more refined or extended version in the form of a pixel? So like a vector is like a line, but a pixel is really just like a square. So wouldn't multiple pixels be considered like a vector if it's organized properly?
In the way you're explaining that, so the answer to that would be no, because like if I chose a letter size here and I chose a letter size here, that way, there it goes, and I chose to draw a line, come on, where, oh, here it is, yeah. Right, how big is this? Let me make this 5 pixels. Maybe 5 pixels too. Oops, yeah, just draw a line. That's pixels. Yeah, let's make it 10. Right, there we go. A nice straight line. And if I chose to do the same thing here, and let's make this 3, and I draw a straight line here. So there you go. I have two straight lines. Now, what's happening in the pixel based program is that if I zoom in, it looks fine. If I go in far enough, then it's really just a bunch of lines that make up this. It's really just a bunch of pixels that make up this line. However, for the vector software, if I zoom in, it don't matter how much I zoom in, there are no pixels. You see what I'm saying? So you're saying that yes, pixels come together to give you a line when you're using a pixel-based application. But for a vector-based application, no, it's not pixels any at all. There are no pixels anywhere here. They have left the building. Does that answer the question?
Yes, sir. Somewhat.
Right. No, but tell me, if you have more questions, tell me, because
Sir, I have a
the
question.
yeah, go ahead.
Could you transfer an image from pixel to vectors? Or would it have to be like created in a vector program?
That's a very good question. The answer to that is yes-ish. I don't want to say no, but for example, if I should take an image of, how about an image of myself? Yes, let me grab that from maybe. Here I go. There I go. Let me just use it as a screenshot like that. And I will just drop this image here in Illustrator. So here's this image here. Right? So obviously this is not vector, because if I zoom in, right now you can see the pixels, right? I mean, Illustrator isn't going to give me the grid, but you guys can see the pixels, right?
Yes, sir.
I could say, and don't worry about this feature. I'm just going to show you just in terms of to answer your question. I could say image trace high fidelity photo conversion, and hopefully this won't take long. And voila, this is now vector. Does it look any sharper?
Looks a little sharper here.
Well, let me zoom in. All right, what you notice?
There's no pixels, but
There are no pixels, but the way that the line works here. So for
it
example,
looks like a painting.
it kind of look like a painting. Exactly. So if I go and expand this. Right. So these are all the line work. Remember I said vector is made up of lines. So these are all the lines. I don't know if you can see the blue lines being highlighted here, right?
Yeah.
These are all the lines that made up this image. Now, because this was generated from a photo, it's not efficient. Like it's definitely not like how this was drawn. And the reason for that is that these lines were intentionally drawn, right? So if you take a picture of a floor plan and convert it to line work, it's not going to look as clean as if when you originally drew those lines, right? So that's why I say yes-ish, because in this case, no, it doesn't work. However, if I should grab something much simpler, like a figure silhouette, like just grab this image. Let me just take a screenshot of this image. I'm not even going to take a screenshot. All right. And I'm going to drop this image in Illustrator. There we go. So same thing again. Oops. Same thing again. If I zoom in here, you will see that this is all pixels. You guys can see that, right?
Yeah.
However, if I convert this using the same method to pixels, to vector, properties, and go to trace, use the same high fidelity photo, then there you go. Now it is vector. But of course, you can see that this is some nice clean line work. Like if I look at the line work that was used to create this, you see how it's nice and smooth? You see that?
Yeah.
Right, but when I tried to do the photo, it didn't work. So what this tells me is that vectors have a kind of limitation. I'm glad you asked that question. And this is why at the end of the day, when you looked at this vector vehicle, is why it doesn't look 100% real, is because there is just some limitation in how vectors work. But for us in architecture, we're not trying to get our floor plans to be photorealistic. We want to get our floor plans to be as pristine, as clean, as sharp as possible. There's another advantage of vector that pixels can't touch. And I will show that other example here. And that is the ability to edit. Now, right now, when I draw this line here, right? So let's say that I'm drawing this line in Photoshop, right? Or let's say that I attempt the impossible and I want to freehand draw a smiley face in Photoshop. So I do something like that, like that, like that, like that. Wait, that doesn't look like a smile. Let me do like that. Okay, you get the idea, guys. And I decide and say, all right, this looks horrible. Like this is not a circle. I wish I could change this circle here. But anyway, let's say that I do the same thing in Illustrator, right? So let's say that I get my pencil tool here, and I do the same thing. Well, let's make it a little bit thicker, maybe like 4. Yeah, let's go again now. Oops! Oh, this is horrible. I'm sorry, guys. I'm using the mouse. Both of these are actually quite horrible. But the point is that the other advantage that vectors have is that I can't I can't smooth this up. Like the only way I can manipulate these pixels, these silly pixels here, is that I would have to like I don't know, use the eraser tool. Maybe I would have to do some funny business. Where's my eraser tool? You know, and I would have to try and erase it, you know, and then go back to my tool here, so and try and do it a little bit nicer. You know what I mean? It's very clunky dealing with pixels. But vectors, on the other hand, is line work. So I can go in and I can just tweak these lines, you know what I mean? And just kind of get them to be nice and perfect. You know, I can take my time and move these are called handles. You know, and I can spend time and work this through and get it to be nicer, right? And that is one of the other advantages of using vector. This is just like you guys are using AutoCAD. And you're able to go into AutoCAD, and if you draw a line, it's like, oops, I can just extend the line, I can short the line, all of those things. So vector-based programs are more malleable. They're easily malleable, right? So both of these have advantages and disadvantages. And it's just a matter of knowing when to use them. So what we're going to do today, so we learned how to use a pixel-based application like Photoshop. We learned that we can use Photoshop and do filters and reflections and, you know, cut out backgrounds and all of those things. Now, what we're going to do this time now is learn how we can use vector-based application. And the one that we're going to use is going to be Illustrator, right? And Illustrator is used primarily, somebody mentioned the creation of logos. Can anybody tell me why would you use a logo? Why would you build a logo in Illustrator? Anybody?
Because no matter what size it's at, it will always be sharp.
Exactly. And think about how many millions of ways a logo is used. It's crazy. On your phone, on the side of a building, on a plane. Like, think of all the manipulations that you have to do to a logo, right? If your logo is in vector, you can do anything with it. I'll show you one more example here. This is an example of elevation. Remember I was telling you earlier? So this elevation was drawn in AutoCAD and it was saved as a JPEG. So JPEG is a raster or pixel-based file format, which means that each of these line work are made up of pixels. You can't really see them nicely here. Maybe if I open this in Photoshop, you'll be able to see it better. Right, so here's that same floor plan. So the floor plan was drawn in a vector-based application. So in this case, it was drawn in AutoCAD, but then it was saved as a JPEG. So this is where file formats come into play now, right? Hold on, let me fix this for you here. Of course. Let me just rotate this like that. Good. There we go. So we have both of them here. So this part comes extremely important because when you draw something in AutoCAD and you want to let's say you want to put it in a PowerPoint presentation, or you want to print it in a document, or put it in a or print it out on a 24 by 36. Let's say you saved your AutoCAD file as a JPEG. If you notice, when I zoom in, all of these lines are still made up of pixels. Can you guys see that? These are still pixels. And even though they look similar, this one here was saved as a PDF, and PDF has the ability to it has the ability, I'm looking for the right word, to save, to keep intact any vector information. So same thing, if I zoom into this again, these lines are all vector. That's right here. So if I should print the JPEG to my printer, and I should print the PDF to a printer, you will be able to clearly see which image is vector. Even though the image on the left is so large and it has so much pixels, the way that your printer works with vector is different than the way that your printer works with pixels. It's almost like, think of it as, anybody watch Japanese anime?
Yes, sir.
Right. And anybody ever watch when the Japanese anime is dubbed? So when you get the English voice actor, and
Yes, sir.
sometimes it can feel a little weird. You know what I mean?
Where the audio doesn't sync up all the way with the mouth
Right.
movement.
The audio doesn't sync up, and sometimes even the expression, like, you know, so like persons like my son now, he likes to watch the Japanese straight and read the subtitles, you know? because sometimes the English translation is so bad. But at the end of the day, you're still getting the same meaning. You're still getting the same meaning, but it's not as pure as the Japanese one, right? It's the kind of the same thing with vector. Like printers are able to directly interact with the code, with the algorithm that makes a vector. But with pixels, it's almost like you have to have an in-between translator that translate pixels in a algorithmic way to then print it. So because of that, it don't cleanly transfer as nice as vector. And this is why when you guys are printing your plans and those kind of things, you should always try to print from a vector format if you produce the work in vector. So don't do the work in AutoCAD, save it as a JPEG and then print the JPEG. When you're saving from AutoCAD, you have to save as a vector format like PDF or EPS or AutoCAD, because AutoCAD itself is a vector file. So you have image pixel-based files and you have vector-based files. All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to look at one of the uses of vector files. And one of the superpower of using Illustrator is, you remember this ability that I showed you earlier with the smiley face? The way that you're able to manipulate lines. That is the superpower of a vector program. So when it comes to doing diagrams, guys, Illustrator is going to be the king, right? And I'm going to show you how you can use Illustrator to do a diagram. We're going to do that as an exercise today. It's going to be pretty short, right? Pretty easy exercise. And then that would be it for class today, right? So I want you guys to fire up your Illustrator, right?
And sir, what if we don't have Illustrator?
If you don't have Illustrator, then you should acquire Illustrator by any means necessary.
On a Mac, sir? Without paying for it?
Well, what I would say to that is, if you need access to software, talk to Mr. Campbell. Illustrator is also in the computer lab. Of course, you're not necessarily beside the computer lab now, right?
The
If you
computer
don't
lab
have,
that closes at 4.
exactly, I know. The lab is not as, this is one of the advantages of moving these classes to online, because it's a bit more flexible, right? So I know that the side effect of that is going to be the whole software question. So how we counter that is that I try for computing classes to have you guys in contact with at least a technician or somebody that can help you to get access to the stuff. If you don't have it now, right, then just try and get a hold of Mr. Campbell. You can just WhatsApp him, make him provide you with some solutions, and then when you submit the work, just mention that to me in the comments area, in the comments part. All right. But either way, we can find a solution. But Illustrator is going to be a program that you guys will use pretty much for life. It is kind of like the other AutoCAD, right? Just like how almost everybody in architecture uses AutoCAD, it's kind of the same thing. It's like another type of AutoCAD. All right, so it's definitely worth investing in. So, all right, as usual, remember this class is going to be recorded, so just in case if we're going too fast or if we leave you a little behind, you can always catch up in the recordings, because we don't want to do it over and over again. All right, and I know some of you might be seeing Illustrator for the first time, so it might take you a little while to get on to it, but don't worry guys, it is fun. All right. Okay.
Sir.
All right, so I'm gonna open up Illustrator now. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Similarly to when you would give us the assignment on Monday and submit it on Wednesday.
Right.
Would we be given a day or two to submit this one?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's not an assignment; it's a class exercise. So my recommendation is
Yes,
just follow along in class and just submit it in class. Some of you might have technical difficulties, software and blah, blah, blah. For those of you that have technical difficulties, send it to me tomorrow.
Yes, sir. I get that, sir. Sorry to be frank as well. I can't keep up in this, sir. I usually just plan to watch the videos. It's usually too fast for us.
All right. That's fine, and that's fine. Which is why I have that option of just send it the other day, right? So just so if you need to go through it a little bit more slowly and all of that, all right? Okay. All right. So I want to just introduce you a little bit to the user interface of Illustrator, and then we jump into the exercise because some of you might be seeing it for the first time. All right.
Okay guys, welcome to another exercise. So this is exercise 3, right? And in exercise 3 we're gonna look at doing vector editing using Illustrator. Now if you head on over to the website and you select exercise 3, there we go, you will see what we have on the plate for today. So we're going to learn how to convert a sketch using Illustrator. And Illustrator is an awesome tool for doing diagrams and creating vector content which can further be edited or manipulated, right? Of course, vector content is resolution independent, which is one of its major features. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take a sketch and we're going to convert that to vector using lines, symbols, arrows, and investigate some of the uses of Illustrator. So with that said, let's fire up Illustrator. Now, just like the other, just like Photoshop, Illustrator will also give you a landing screen, and we're going to choose create new. Now for this particular exercise we are going to use letter size document. So we're going to choose letter size and we're going to be portrait, and everything else we will leave as default and choose create. Now when you pull up Illustrator you're going to notice some similarities with Photoshop. Now we have already experimented with manipulating the user interface with Photoshop. Hence, we can apply some of the lessons learned to using Illustrator. So the first thing to notice is that things are pretty much the same. We do have our panels, or which is our detail tools located over here. We do have our tools, our general tools located over here, and we still have a control bar at the top, right, along with our menus, and we are also showing statistics at the bottom of the page. So far most of these features seems to be aligned with what we notice in Photoshop. Now there are a few differences and we're gonna explore that as we go along. Now the first thing to realize is our details area, which houses our panels. These are our specific tools. There are a couple of options. Now we already know that we can see what panels to enable by using our window menu, and as you can see here, it would almost seem like Illustrator has just about the same amount of panels as Photoshop. Now just like before, what we're going to do is we're going to pull out most of these panels, so we're going to pull them out, right? And these are panels that are minimized to icons. So remember, you are able to maximize your panel by clicking the maximize button, and then that's what you would get. But let's not worry about that now. Let us just pull out all of these panels. Now, currently, this is the default setup for Illustrator, which is called Essentials, right? And when you open Illustrator for the first time, a fresh installation of Illustrator, this is what you will see. And you can see these are the panels that they pretty much start you off with. Now, if you're using the newer version of Illustrator, there is a new panel that you will notice here called Properties, and another one called Libraries. Now these are just regular panels just like these other ones, so we're going to also pull them out, and we're going to pull out Libraries here. Alright, now these are the same panels as you see here, they're just maximized. So if we minimize them, they turn into an icon. Now, right now we have basically dragged out all of the panels that you see here, and we're gonna actually close these out. And we're simply just repeating what we had done with Photoshop. We're going to create our own set of panels and tools that we're going to use for this exercise. Most of the times, most of the panels that you start off with might not be the ones you would want to use. And depending on the task that you want to accomplish in Illustrator, you would use the panels that would be necessary for that task. Let's also pull out our tools menu as well, and we'll take a look at this tools menu in detail a bit more. Okay, so we're going to go to window, and we're going to use our color panel, so we're going to open that up. We are also going to use our layers panel. We are going to use our stroke panel. We're also going to use our type. And when you go to type, we're going to enable character. And notice how when you open character, you actually get these three panels together. So this is actually character and paragraph and open type. We're going to leave open type for now. So we're going to use the character and paragraph panels. Okay, so these are the panels we're going to do. So what we're going to do now is we are going to expand these panels. So we're going to click on that's the expand button there, and that will expand out the panels. So we're going to expand out all of these other panels here. Okay, good. All right. There we go. And let us now dock them together. So we're going to dock paragraph and character. We're going to dock strokes and color. And we're going to dock the layers. Let us dock that below. Now notice when I move the layers panel below, it highlights there. So it actually attaches below stroke. And we're gonna carry character and paragraph together. So this is our own little custom panel setup here. And what we're gonna do is save this layout. So we're gonna go to window. Then we're gonna go to workspace and then new workspace. And we're gonna call this layout DDM. Great.
Right, guys. So a good idea for you to do from DDM is to, whenever we go through these exercises and you arrange your panels, let's create a profile because we're going to be using Illustrator a lot. But you're going to be using Illustrator for the rest of CSA. So anytime you get the opportunity, save some profiles. All right. When you have Illustrator set up like how you want it.
So now we have our workspace set up with the panels that we will use. Now, before we get going with our exercise, I want us to get familiar with how Illustrator functions, because there are some differences compared to that of Photoshop. Now, Illustrator also has a section for dealing with layers, right? As you can remember, with Photoshop, layers is what we use to control the different elements on our artboard. Now, let us, for example, use a tool that we also use in Photoshop. So I am going to use the rectangle tool here. Now, how this works is I click the tool once, and then I'm able to draw that tool, that shape on the artboard. Now, in Illustrator, this is called your artboard. In Photoshop, it's called, forgive me, in Illustrator, it's called your artboard, and in Photoshop, it's called your canvas. So that is just the terminology that Illustrator uses. Now, what you've seen here is that I have placed an object, a rectangle, on my artboard. Now, unlike Photoshop, Illustrator allows multiple objects to exist on individual layers. So let's do another example here. So if you remember how this works, so these indicators that you see here means that there are sub-tools located within the same region of this tool, just like with Photoshop. So what we're going to actually do is we are going to change this tool to the ellipse tool, and hence if we draw that shape now, we will get a circle. Now, an interesting note here is that both of these objects that we have drawn are on layer 1. In Photoshop, each of these would end up being on individual layers. However, in Illustrator, we can have multiple objects, as you can see here, on a single layer. So the rectangle is here and the ellipse is here, and we're able to actually manipulate them by selecting the ellipse here. And when you select the ellipse, notice that there is a little blue highlight that tells you that, hey, this is the element that's located on this layer that is highlighted. The same thing if I highlight the circle here, then notice that the blue highlight changes here to now say that I have the ellipse selected. Now both of these are located on layer 1, as you can see here. So anytime one of these are selected, layer 1 itself will also get a little highlight here to say that an object within layer 1 is selected. So this is how Illustrator works, where you can have multiple objects on the same layer. Now, to zoom in Illustrator, you do Alt and mouse wheel, and we can actually zoom all the way out, and you will notice that in Illustrator you have an additional boundary here in addition to your artboard here. Now, in Illustrator, you can use anywhere within this zone, but you cannot exceed the boundary here. Another interesting thing you might notice, and I'm going to hold Alt and mouse wheel to zoom back in, is that if I select this object here and if I just grab it by holding on to the edge here and drag it, then you notice that I can actually have objects outside of my artboard. Let me drag that outside. So this is why, if I zoom out, this area is known as your workspace. That's this area here. All of this area here is known as your workspace, and your artwork can be placed anywhere inside your workspace as long as you do not exceed the boundaries set here. Now naturally, if you decide to print your work, it will only print work that is located on your artboard, which is here. So think of your workspace as a table. You can place cuttings and clippings and tape and all sorts of things that you would use in your artwork on your table, but only what you put on your page is what really matters. And that is the nature of how Illustrator works, which you realize is very different from the canvas in Photoshop, where you're not allowed to go beyond the scope of your canvas in Photoshop. Okay, so let's zoom back in. So I'm holding Control and mouse wheel. Now to pan in Illustrator, I'm going to hold the space bar. And notice as I hold the space bar, you can see the icon changes to a hand. So you hold space bar and left click. And this is pretty much the same kind of feel as Photoshop. So far we've learned a couple of things about Illustrator. We realized that we can have multiple objects on one layer, and when we select an object, it's highlighted with the blue highlight here, and you can also see it highlighted here on your layers tab. Now there are two very important tools in Illustrator that really define Illustrator's uniqueness. There is the selection tools here. Now this is something that you would not have seen in Photoshop, or it is actually in Photoshop, but it's not front and center. And if you look here, this is also another important aspect of Illustrator here. Now let us deal with the selection element first, right? So now notice in Illustrator there are two ways to select. You have the filled arrow and the empty arrow. Now this tool here is known as your selection tool, and this tool here is known as your direct selection tool. So what does that do? Well, this is perhaps one of the most important things to understand about Illustrator. Now I'm just going to bring my rectangle a bit closer, and I'm going to zoom in here. Now notice that, there we go. Right now I'm on the selection tool, and the selection tool allows me to select objects. Now you might notice by default you jump to the selection tool. However, there is also a direct selection tool. Now the selection tool allows you to select an object as a whole. So for example, I have two objects here, and I can select this object, or I can select that object. However, the direct selection tool allows you to select the lines and anchors that make up a particular object. So for example, I can select, if I hover over these lines, you will notice that they are actually highlighted. And I can actually select the anchor point here, and then I can click and hold and drag and move that anchor point. So I can actually deform the shape. Now if I'm on the selection tool, I'm not able to select that direct anchor. I'm only able to select the entire object. And that's the main difference with these tools. The direct selection tool allows you to go into the lines and anchors that make up an object, and it allows you to manipulate them. So for example, I can select this point here and I can drag it. I can even select a line and I can drag it. Or I can actually select all of these points by holding down the shift key, and I can move 2 points at once. Or I could select everything here by dragging a box and move all the points at once. Now the same thing for the circle. I can actually select the points that make up the circle. Now when I select the circle, you will notice that some additional things come up. I get some handles here and here. Now when I select these angles, I can actually move them around and it will actually deform the shape. And that's because these curves are called Bezier curves. Now, while I'm manipulating this, I want you to notice something, that no matter how much I zoom in, these lines are always 100% sharp. And that is because Illustrator is not using pixel to show its artwork, but instead it's using a combination of algorithms. It's using a combination of algorithms of which to display the artwork. So because of that, I can manipulate these handles and it would actually change or manipulate the anchors that make up an object. Now the next thing to understand about Illustrator is that every object that exists in Illustrator, every vector object, will have a fill color and a stroke color. This shape that we're looking at now, the fill color is white and the stroke color is black.
Right, guys. So as you realize, guys, so for those of you who are not familiar with Illustrator, these little warm-up tasks is great for you to do, right? Those of you who are familiar with Illustrator, you know everything up to now. Remember, you can just go to the website, click on the exercise tree, and then start working on it, right? All right. So, but this is just a kind of, so you just understand how to move your way around Illustrator before we get into the exercise. All right, guys? You with me? Everybody still up?
Yes, sir.
They're still here.
Cool,
Yes,
cool.
sir.
All right, let's continue.
And essentially these are all that makes up a vector, right? It has to have a stroke and it has to have a fill. So for example, if I change the fill color by double clicking it, choose OK, then it will change. Now notice it changes here, but it does not change here. And the reason for that is that actually we have nothing selected. If you look at our layers here, you also realize that it does not say that we have selected anything. So what we're changing here now, it's just, arbitrary. We're not actually changing an object that is selected. Now notice that when I click the object, now it says that you have selected a path, and it also gives you an indicator over here that says, hey, I have selected this object. There is my indicator right there. So in Illustrator, it is important to always select your object. Now notice when I select the object, this goes back to white as shown here, and the stroke, which is the edge of this here, goes back to black. However, now that I have the object selected, if I double click here, then I'm able to now change the fill color. And if I double click the stroke, I'm able to now change the stroke color. Let's change that to something that we can recognize, like some kind of blue. Here we go. And pretty much that is all that makes up a vector. Now I want you guys to try this out. If, let's say for example, let's use the other shape that we have here. Now in this case, actually that is, here it is, that's this shape that we have here. Now in this case, if I click on this object, I want you to notice what happens. Again, it shows me how I have my fill and my stroke organized, where the black is the stroke and the fill on the inside is the white here. Now it also tells me that I have a path selected, and it also tells me that I have this object selected on this layer. So all of that information changes based on your selection, and this is an important point that I'm going to expand on right after this. But before we do that, let's just experiment with this a little bit, just to kind of digest how this thing works. Again, if I double click on the stroke and I change it to a color and I choose OK, then the stroke will change. Remember, I do have to have my object selected. And if I double click on the fill and change the fill color, now the fill will change. Now if I click anywhere on the outside of my shape, then what will happen? Notice it will say I have nothing selected because I have clicked in an area that nothing is located. If I click on the object, then it will tell me I have a path selected. Now remember, there are indeed two ways to select. So right now I have my direct selection tool highlighted, so that allows me to click on these anchors that actually make up the shape. However, if I use the selection tool instead, it will allow me to select the entire shape. Alright, so those are little things that we need to remember how Illustrator works. What you realize now is that you can be a bit more precise with Illustrator because it allows you to go, you know, within the object and manipulate it, and you can have multiple objects on a layer. So right now you might realize that, okay, so Illustrator gives me the ability to be more detailed. Now, there's also another thing to notice about how Illustrator selects objects. Now, the way how your control bar works, right? Now, when I say control bar, I'm talking about this bar up top. This control bar works based on what is selected, not based on the tool. Now, if you remember, in Photoshop, the tool that you select will determine what options you get up top. That is not so in Illustrator, right? In Photoshop, the tools determine the properties up here. Now in Illustrator, the object determines the properties. So what do I mean by that? Well, currently I have nothing selected. However, if I now select this object here, then notice immediately you get some additional options here, and it tells you that you have a path selected. It also tells you what colors is applied to your path. It tells you the thickness of the lines, the type of line, you know, the opacity, and the alignment, and some transform options. So all of these options that are located here are all based on this object here. And how do I know that? Well, check it out. If I change the stroke up here while this object is selected, then notice that the stroke gets bigger. So you can see that all of these properties up top are really based on the object that is selected. So for example, if I should zoom out a bit here, and I should select the other shape that we had here, then notice again that the options up here change. Now, most of these elements didn't change, but what changed was the thickness of the lines and of course the color. All right, so let me choose the next one. See, notice it changed again. And if I choose by this one, then it changed. So right away you can notice the properties on your control bar up here changes based on whatever you have selected. So let's try something else for good measure. What if I use the text tool here? So that's the text tool here. And what I'm going to do is click the text tool and I'm going to type my name. All right, good. Now I'm going to go to my selection tool, which allows me to select these different objects. Now, notice that when I select the name, there is a new object added to my layer, and you can see the name here, and you can also see the dot there to tell you that it's selected. Now, additionally, it's telling me that, hey, what do I have selected? I have selected a type, right? Meaning like typography, I've selected a type. And it also tells me that the text is black. It has no outline here. But then it gives me some other options. For example, the font, the typeset. Then it also gives me the font size, the paragraph, and a couple other options here. So right away you can see that if I should now deselect by selecting a blank area, then the options up top change because I have nothing selected. And if I click back on this, then the options here change. So that's just something to keep in mind, that whatever you click on, these properties up top will change it. Okay, good. So now we've kind of learned how to manipulate ourselves in Illustrator. Now I'm going to zoom out a bit and let's talk about this artboard for a while. Now we already realized that we can just put objects outside our artboard. However, if we print, we will not be able to, our artboard would have been blank because nothing is on the artboard. Now there is an actual artboard tool which is located here. And what this tool allows you to do, when you highlight it, it allows you to now change the size of your artboard. And in newer versions of Illustrator, it allows you to also change the name of your artboard. Notice the same thing again. When I have the artboard selected, if you look at the properties up top, these are all properties that are related to the artboard. So look at the size is letter size, the name of the artboard is artboard 1, and these are, you know, the location that it is in your workspace, whether it is portrait or landscape. And it tells me that I have my artboard selected. Now a key thing to realize is that I'm only able to select the artboard when I'm in artboard edit mode. So if I had selected my
sir?
my selection tool, notice that
Yeah, what's up?
So the ribbon at the top,
All right.
I'm
If
not
you're-
seeing it on
Right.
Illustrator for me.
Right. So if you're using newer version of Illustrator, it will probably look like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's nowadays Illustrator tries to cram most of its settings in the properties tab. But the one, in order to see the control bar that I'm showing at the top, just go to Window and go to Control. Let's turn this on.
Window. You said window, then control.
Yeah. Are you seeing that?
I think I'm blind. Cause no.
You using Windows PC?
Yeah.
Right. So at the top, you're seeing File, Edit, you when you go to Window.
Yeah, I see window. I just don't see control.
All right. Do you see maybe a different version? Do you see like a sub menu that says like toolbars? Or do you see which version are you using?
2024.
It should still be there.
Oh, see it.
Oh, you find it. All right, good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, man, you put on your glasses. All right, good. All right, let's continue.
Can't select my artboard, and naturally so, because it would have been quite annoying to be accidentally moving your artboard around. Now, your artboard does not exist on a layer because it's not an object, really. Now, there are many other tools that you can see that's located in our tools here, and we may not get to all of them. There are quite a few fascinating tools as well, but let us get to perhaps one of the most important tools when using Illustrator, and that is the pen tool that's located here. So let's take the pen tool for a swing. So if I click on the pen tool, what the pen tool allows me to do is to draw a shape. Now, the important thing is to notice the symbols that are beside the pen tool. And when I say symbols, I'm really referring to the little star that you would see that's right beside the pen tool there, as you can see. Now, the star means that you're about to create a new shape. So I could create a new shape by clicking once there, click again there, click there, and notice that when I click again now, notice I'm getting a fill. Now I'm going to just close that shape up, and when I hover here, notice I get a little circle that tells me that I'm about to close the loop. Now, why did I get a red fill? Well, that's because my settings is currently set to a red fill, and it was set to that before I started to draw. Notice that because I have this shape selected, the stroke, which you can barely see, is this blue color here. Now, notice that I'm still on the pen tool because the pen tool is still highlighted. And while the pen tool is highlighted, if I hover over a point, I get a minus sign, and that minus sign is telling me that it is going to actually remove that point. If I hover over a line, notice I get a plus symbol which says it's going to add a new point. And if I hover outside the shape, I get back the star, and of course that means I'm going to be drawing an entirely new shape. So those are the important symbols that you're to watch while you're using the pen tool. Now, if I wanted to manipulate this shape, then I would have to go to my direct selection tool, which would allow me to now select an individual point and then move it. Select the point first, then move. And it's a little tricky to move these points because they're so small. When you're trying to move a point, what you need to do is first select the point, release the mouse, then you click and drag. So let's try that out. Hover over the point, select it, release the mouse, and then try and drag. Oftentimes, if you try to select and drag it together, then you might end up moving the entire shape. So my suggestion is to select the point first and then move it. Now, for those of you who are using maybe CC 2015 and up, when you select a point, you notice that you get this little symbol here. And what this means, it can actually automatically round the point for you, like that. So that's a pretty cool feature as well. Now remember how this works. Illustrator works by whatever you select. The properties for whatever you select is going to be located up top. So the same is true when using the direct selection tool. Remember, the direct selection tool allows you to select these little individual points that make up these objects, and these individual points actually have their own properties. So for example, if I select this point here, then notice the kind of options that I'm getting here. Right? I can, for example, make this point a curve or at an angle. So this is me changing the properties of this individual point. So this is why Illustrator is so detailed, because you can actually change properties for literally everything. The line that you have here, the point that you have here, or the entire shape that you have here if you use the selection tool. Now, up until now, we have been using primarily our tools that's located here, and we've been using our control panel, which is located up here. Now notice we haven't even touched our panels here, and remember what panels are from Photoshop. These are actually specific tools. Now the truth of the matter is that the panels that you see up here, it's like a shortcut or a summarized version of the more detailed panels that you will see here. So what do I mean by that? Well, for example, if I select the character panel, then notice on the character panel I can see, you know, all of these elements that are here. But additionally, if I should select a text object, then notice that I actually get some of these options up top. So for example, I get the font, there it is there. There is the font there. I get the style of it, and I get the size of the font here. But then notice there are even other options that's located on this panel, and not all the options that you will see in your details panel is going to be located in your control panel up top. So what this is saying is that our control panel is kind of like a quick shortcut to change something. So if I want to change the color of perhaps this shape here, I can quickly change it up here. But if I wanted to get more color options, well, I would go to my color panel, and then I would have a much wider range of options available to me. Now, if you remember about panels from Photoshop, every panel has the ability, it has the title, it has the ability to expand or contract the panel. You can close the panel with the X there, and every panel has what you call panel options here. Now this is quite important because what happened is that some panels are actually minimized, and there are more options that's located in the panel options. So let me give you an example. So let's say that I'm on the color panel now, right? Now in the color panel, my options are these. However, if I go to my panel options that's located here, I'm able to go to the show options. Let me carry this over. I'm able to go to my show options here. And when I click that, notice that my color panel has now expanded, and I now have these additional options here, which is very useful. So every panel, or most panel, has the ability to expand into even further details. And if you look at these options here, none of these options exist to that level of detail on our control panel up top. So when you want more granular editing, you would need to go to your panels to do that. Let's look at another option. So for example, if I go to my stroke panel here, and if we remember what strokes are, remember strokes is actually the outer part of the fill, right? So that's these outer parts here. Now when I go to my stroke panel, well, the only option I get would be this, which is simply just changing the width of the stroke. So for example, if I have this object selected here, I can increase the width of the stroke. As you can see, it's getting quite big there. Now there are more options available to us, but we would need to access that using the panel options here. So we go to panel options, and then we go to show options. And voila, notice that the stroke panel now open up into a barrage of additional properties. Now this is one of the panels that we will be utilizing a lot for this exercise. So hence we want to get familiar with this. So just to kind of give you a preview of what some of these tools do, things like I could now choose how the corners of these strokes should be. It could be Oh, remember you have to actually select the object, right? It could be curved, and you can kind of see where the corners are being curved, or it could be chamfered. You know, the stroke could be on the inside or on the outside of the shape, or in the center of the shape. Of course, I can set the width here. I can set to have a dash line. I can set the length of the dash. I can have an uneven dash line, so I can set the width of the gap. There we go. Additionally, I can choose even the line thickness. I can have a profile like this, where the line starts little, gets big, gets small again. Starts little, gets big, and gets small again. So, I mean, these are just some of the options, but the sheer level of adjustments that you can do is just breathtaking when it comes to line work. And this is the reason why Illustrator is pretty much the king of line work. Okay guys, welcome to...
Alright, so that was our little warm-up, guys, and I hope you would have gotten, for those of you that are able to follow, you kind of get a little bit used to how the interface of Illustrator works, right? Right? I think Illustrator has been the same pretty much over the last, I don't know, 20 odd years. It's generally the same. There are some nuances that got added, but regardless of whichever version you're using, the idea of having panels that you can pull out and edit and expand and panel options, all of those things are the same. All right, and I guess some of you realize that it's the same thing with Photoshop as well. So this is why Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign, those are the dynamic trio. Like, you know those, you know art, you're set, right? So now we're going to jump right into the exercise, right? So the exercise is fairly simple, guys. As I say, if you're a little new to the interface, don't worry. The recording will be here. All right, guys? All right. Any questions so far, guys? Anybody maybe using it and maybe you have any questions? Are you all good?
Following along, sir.
All
Steadily.
right. Surviving along. All right, cool. I hope the environment is a little bit more relaxed, being that you're not like sandwiched between multiple classes, and hopefully most of you are in an environment where you can kind of absorb this stuff, you know? You can let me know how the new schedule is working out. All right, let's dive into the exercise. All right, cool.
So now that we have experimented with some of the features of Illustrator and investigated some of the differences that it has with Photoshop, we can now start to look on the exercise. So we are going to actually delete all of this stuff here by just selecting all of them. We're going to hit delete, so we're now at a blank.
Right, so you guys, you can really just use the same if you were doing that warm-up session, you can use the same file, just erase everything and go again. All right,
our colors here, and remember we can do that by actually clicking this little icon here, just like Photoshop. So
I don't know if you guys noticed, but also when I zoom in and record, the mouse, the location of the mouse pointer is different. I don't know if you guys notice. You notice like the mouse pointer is down here, but my arrow is up top. If anybody noticed that, it's just an issue with zooming in Windows and playing it back through Zoom. All right, so yeah.
We put this here, and then it will reset to the default. Now let us take a look on the exercise. Now the objective is that we want to convert this sketch to digital line work, and there are many uses of this, especially in architecture, because you know diagramming is one of the ways that as designers we communicate. Now, when a diagram is in vector, it has way more flexibility, as you can move arrows around and change thickness of lines and all of these things. And in sometimes you might have a little diagram that you have created, but you want to put it in Illustrator so you can further expand on that diagram, especially if you want to include it on your sheet as a part of your presentation. So we're going to access the original sketch here by using our accessing our exercise files, and our original sketch will look something like this. Now, of course, this is an image which is pixels. So we're going to download this image here, and that image is now in my downloads, and I can actually drag that image onto my artboard like that. And that's the image. Now, one interesting thing to note is that yes, Illustrator is a vector editing program, but you're able to actually drag images into Illustrator. And if you look here, you can clearly see that this is not vector work, it's pixels, because you can see the pixels here. But it is still able to be shown in Illustrator. Now, another thing to notice is if you remember this symbol here with the X, it's very similar to the symbol in Photoshop where an object is a smart object, meaning that it can't be manipulated in any way. Now, this symbol here has pretty much the same meaning. However, no pixel work can be manipulated in Illustrator, meaning that you can't erase these pixels. You can't use like a paint bucket and fill this area here, and that's because Illustrator does not recognize pixels. Photoshop would be the application that's able to manipulate pixels or edit them. In Illustrator, you cannot manipulate them any at all. So what Illustrator actually does, it creates a link to the original file. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you look here in my downloads, you can see where I have this original file here, which is called Sketch. Now, if I delete this file, then what will happen is in Illustrator, I will get a message to say, hey, that media is missing. And that's because Illustrator has not embedded the image, but yet rather it has created a link directly to the image. So hence I'm going to now lose this image here. So let me choose no. All right, great. Now I'm going to delete this image, and let's go back and grab my image from my desktop. So I'm going to actually grab back this image now and drag it back there. Now the image is going to be linked. Now remember how Illustrator works. Anything you click on, the properties for whatever you click on is located up here. And these are just a collection of common properties. If we really wanted to get down and dirty with having more options, we would use our panels here, which has way more options. But right away, we can see that over here that these are the options that Illustrator has for this that's selected. Now notice the name of the object that we have here. It's called linked file. It is located on layer 1, which is located here. And I can choose to embed it. I can edit original, or I can do an image trace. I can do mask, and all these other properties that is located up here are all related to this object that I have selected down here. Now what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to embed this image. Now once the image is embedded, then it is no longer linked. So if I go to my desktop now, where I had the sketch image here, and I delete it, then notice that nothing happens to my Illustrator. It is still there, and that is because this image is now embedded into the file rather than being referenced or linked to the original file. And that might be a good thing or bad thing depending on how you want to work. Okay, good. So once the file is embedded, using my selection tool, I'm going to resize this. Now you might want to hold shift, because if you don't, then the image will be squashed. So we don't want to squash the image. So we're going to resize this and place it up here, and we're going to pretty much try to use as much as the page as possible. Let's kind of zoom out there. Like that. There we go. Let's put it in the center of the page here. Okay, good. There we go. All right, good. So while it is there in the center of the page, we're going to now put this on a new layer before we start tracing. So what we're going to do is create a new layer, and that is on the same location as Photoshop. So that is down here, and we're going to create a new layer. So notice the new layer is created here. It's called layer 2, and what we're going to do is name this layer. We're going to call this original sketch. Then we want to place our object on that layer. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag this object into this layer here. We're going to drag that and release. So now if we expand original sketch, you will see that the image is now underneath that layer called original sketch. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually select this layer. Let's click on the object, and we're going to use our control panel at the top, and we're going to change the opacity of this. Let's change it to about 30, and then notice that it gets much paler. And we're doing this because we want to now trace on top of this now, to trace this line work as vector, so that we are able to manipulate the vector. As this is now, this is pixels, so it would be very difficult to manipulate this. You can't change the arrow or change the direction of the arrow because these are all pixels. So this is a reason why in architecture you might want to trace something in order to manipulate it better as vector. So what we're going to do is we're going to lock that layer by clicking the lock symbol here, and that will now prevent this layer from being selected and moved or anything. All right, great. So now we're going to create another new layer. So we're going to go back to our new layer icon here, and we're going to call this new layer our trace layer. And of course this layer needs to be on top of our original sketch layer, and it does not need to be locked because we're going to be needing to manipulate this layer. Our original layer here, we can actually just dump that and delete that layer. So now at the end of the day, we should end up with two layers, our original layer and our trace layer here. All right, so if I zoom in here now, I can clearly see what I will have to sketch. Now I can see that this area is hatched. I can see that there are different types of arrows, and I can see that this is kind of like a fill with dots, maybe representing ground or sand or earth. And then this is perhaps representing maybe the edge of trees or water. We see some arrows representing views. So this is a pretty standard concept sketch that you might choose to do in your architectural design. Now, to get started to digitize this sketch, we got to ensure that we're on the sketch layer, and we need to select our pen tool, which is located here. All right, so when we choose the pen tool, we're going to use the pen tool to pretty much take care of most geometric shapes. So for example, this building here. Now before we start drawing, we want to ensure that the fill color of our pen, of our pen tool, is transparent, and we want the stroke color to be black. And we do want it to be black and a little thick, because as you can see, the line work here is quite black and quite thick. So in order to do that, we need to select the fill, and then we want to say for this fill, we want it to be nil. So we're going to choose that option, and that makes it no fill. Then now we need to select the stroke now, which is here, and notice that it's kind of behind the fill. So you need to activate it by clicking once on the stroke here. Notice that it is now on top of the fill. Now what color do you want the stroke to be? Now in this case we want to make it black. Now black isn't in this quick access menu here, so we're going to use our, we could either use our color panel here to determine the color. I remember we expanded the color panel by using the panel options, or we could just use our control bar up top. So usually you'd use the color panel when you want to get really specific, like what color of cyan and magenta, you know, you want to include specifically. But in this case, we want to make it just straight black. So we can just really get away by choosing this down arrow here and choosing black. Oops, actually, wait. That actually changed the fill, my bad. So you want to choose a stroke and choose black. There we go. All right. Now we're ready to draw. So we're gonna, with the pen tool selected, we're gonna click once, click again, click once, click again, and you get the rough idea. You're pretty much tracing this thing here. Now this is a sketch, so don't worry about those parts that are extending beyond the sketch. For this purpose, we just want to digitize this. Now that we have drawn it, we do need to make this line work bigger. Oh, notice that I didn't actually close my line work. And in case you did this, you need to go back to your pen tool, hover over the last area you did, and notice you get a little line there, symbol on the pen tool. You're going to click once, release, and then click again, and then that will close it off, just in case some of you did not close the loop. Now next, what we want to do is increase the width of this line. So we could actually just select this here and use our stroke here. That looks like about it. Now another thing you might do is, you know, notice how the original line work didn't really have these really sharp, you know, corners like a razor blade. These are looking quite sharp, so ideally you'd want to round those up. Now the option to do that is definitely not going to be in our control panel here. So we need to go and do the heavy lifting, and that is located on your stroke panel here, because on the stroke panel you would now be able to change a whole lot more options relating to this line that you see here. So what we're going to do is we are going to change the corners to curved corners, and notice how the corners that you see here are now nicely curved. There we go. You can see them curved now, which is a better kind of interpretation, I think, for this in this case. Okay, now once we have this drawn up now, we might realize that the pen tool is great for drawing angular line work. Now we do want to use our curvature tool. Now, I'm hoping that you would have the curvature tool. It was introduced somewhere in perhaps Illustrator version CS6 and upwards. Don't quote me on that, but it wasn't always there in Illustrator. But I'm going to assume that most of us have this option here. So we're going to use the pen curvature tool this time to get this area here, which kind of represents a more organic shape. So with that tool selected, we're going to click once, click again, and notice as you draw that the program kind of does most of the curve work for you, and it takes some getting used to, but you will get the hang of it. You might have to draw it once or twice. If you make a mistake, you just need to Control Z to undo. Now, once you draw the curvature tool, we need to perhaps edit it. I think the line work is a bit thick. So with our selection tool, we want to select the line work. And we're going to use our stroke panel and make that stroke a little smaller. Then we're going to actually use our direct selection tool to try and neat up our line. So chances are when most of you drew your line work, maybe you had some kinks in it. You know, it wasn't nice and smooth following the sketch. So don't worry about it and don't try to get it on the first go. What you need to do is to just draw the closest thing that you can manage to draw to it, and then you manipulate it when you're done. So now that you're finished drawing the closest that you can get to your sketch, you're going to use the direct selection tool now, which is this one. And remember from earlier, our direct selection tool allows us to now go in and manipulate these anchor points individually. So now we're able to manipulate these points. Now remember, how you manipulate these points is by first clicking on the point you want to manipulate. Click on it once, don't try and click and move it. Just click on it once first, then click and drag it into place. So in this case, maybe this kink here was a bit much, so I'm going to click on this and then I'm going to adjust this handle to just kind of meet that there, and I'm going to click on this one and adjust this handle. Now, dealing with curves is something that takes practice. You may not necessarily get it on the first go, but manipulating these, they're called Bezier curves, is quite a skill that you develop after doing a lot of line work for a while. So that's our first curve line work there. So I'm going to hold shift and pan over here. Now here's another one here, so let's try and get this in. Now I'm going to use a different technique to get this kind of line work in. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to use my pen tool actually, and I'm going to use the pen tool and I'm going to draw a rough estimation of what this curvature is. Now obviously that is not accurate because you can clearly see below that these are curved, but this time around I'm now going to go to my direct selection tool and I'm gonna select this angled point here, and I can do one of two things. I can, with this point selected, I can now go up to my control menu and I can change that point to a curve. So I'm going to do that by clicking there. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to select this point, and this time let me try using this curve feature here. So you realize there are many ways that you could achieve this. Let me use the curve feature here again. There we go. And I think that will about do it. Now I probably want to pull this back a bit. So in order to do this, what I'm going to do is, using my direct selection tool, I'm going to select this point. I'm going to hold shift and select the next point, and then I'm going to drag it to kind of move it in place. Select the point, then move it. Don't try and select the point and drag in it. Chances are you'll drag the entire object. Click the point first, then click and hold again and move it. Click the point first, then click and move it. So that takes a bit of practice, but if you follow this method.
Yeah, what's up?
Sir, I don't see those tangent lines on my direct selection tool.
You mean when you mean the
Like to curve it.
to curve it?
Yeah.
Hold on. So, and you say you're using what, 04?
I'm using 2022.
22? 22. So, you're referring to these little lines here? You're referring to this? You don't see this?
Yeah, I see it.
Right. Or is that what you're referring to?
No, and when you were curving it using the direct selection tool, it had like lines on the side that you would use to create the curves at the top.
You mean this?
Yeah, how did you get?
Right. So whenever you have a curve, so if I use my pen tool here, come on, pen tool. Yeah. So when you use the direct selection tool and select any curve, you should get the handles. So you're saying you're not seeing these handles?
No, I used the pen tool to draw the lines, just like what it looks like, and then you said use the direct selection to create the curves, and I'm not getting to do that. When I press the dots, they're just moving the straight line itself. They don't create curves.
Oh, so when you create, you mean, all right, we say, so you just have angles alone like this, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, all right, so there are two ways to do this. You can just click on the corner one, and you can just click on the convert. So here, so when you're in the selection tool, you can click the convert to curve. You have to make sure you have a point selected though, and then it will convert to a curve, and you will get the handle. That's one way.
Okay.
The other way is you can select, when you select the point, you can use the little dot here. And this is the best way because this will give you a nice, you ever use it? Well, for those of you who are AutoCAD fans, I use the fillet tool. Anybody? Fillet tool
Yes,
fan?
sir.
Right. It's kind of like the fillet tool. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Cool. Let's proceed.
You won't run into any annoyances. All right, so that is pretty much the most of the drawing sketched. So now we get the idea of how to do this artwork. So let's get this other one on the roll here. So we're going to choose our line tool. Now, in this case, I already know that I want to make this the same thickness as this. So what I could do as a kind of a shortcut is that I could use my selection tool and I could use my pen tool and draw first. Now I am a fan of drawing it rough first and then adding in the curves afterwards. There we go. Now obviously this area should be curved, so I'm going to just go for my direct selection tool, click this area here, and I'm just going to use this smooth feature to just smooth that out for me. Now notice that, okay, this line should be as thick as this line. You can clearly see that there are two different thicknesses. Now instead of adjusting the thickness here, I am going to use the opportunity to introduce our pipette tool, which is here. Now Photoshop also has a pipette tool, and what the pipette tool does, it's kind of like it mimics the properties of a selected object. So what you're going to do is I'm going to use my my selection tool. I'm going to click this line here, then I'm going to go for my pipette tool and click the thicker line here. And notice what it did? It pipetted the features of this line onto this line. So that's another interesting thing that you can do as well. All right, great. So let's draw this last point in again. And for this one, I think I can use my curvature tool. So I'm going to use my curvature tool to get this line work in. There we go. And I think that's okay for now. I can use my direct selection tool to maybe move stuff around if I think that it doesn't quite matches. And of course, I'm gonna use my pipette tool again. So I'm gonna click this object first with my selection tool. So let's use selection tool, click this object. Then I'm gonna go for my pipette tool and click this object, and then it will match those two together. All right, now we can actually start to see our sketch coming together, and we can now add these arrows. Now, to let this be a little more organized, I want us to start putting our objects on different layers. So right now, everything was on the trace layer. But now, what I want us to do is to create multiple layers just to help us to keep organized. So what we're going to do is we're going to click the new layer button here. And we're going to create a new layer. We're going to call this maybe ground. And let's create another new layer and call it building. And let's create another one and maybe call it arrows. Great. Now all we need to do is to put the right stuff on the right layer. So if we extend this down, we can see like a preview of these elements here. Now what you might notice is that you might say, well, there's no way for me to tell, you know, what object is what. You know, it does gives you a little preview, so maybe you're not able to recognize the objects. Well, what you could do is instead of selecting the objects here, you could select the objects from here by clicking this little dot here. So when I click this, I know that I'm selecting that, and that is a part of the ground. So I'll drag this to the ground layer. Undo. Let me do that again. Select that there and drag this to the ground layer. Good. When I select this one, I can see that that's the building here. So I'm going to drag this to the building layer. And I'm basically going to do the same thing again. I'm going to drag this to the ground layer. Oops. Make sure you drag the object and not the layer. So I'm going to drag this to the ground layer. You have to click on this circle to get it highlighted. Drag that to the ground layer, and this is the last one here. I'll drag this to the building layer. There we go. All right, good. Now let us get this curved line in, and this should be pretty straightforward. We probably can use the curvature tool, and let us go on the ground layer before drawing this, and we're gonna use the curvature tool and just kind of, you know, just kind of get this curve in. This is obviously representing something like water or something organic, so we don't need to worry too much about that accuracy. Now to finish, I'm going to press escape, and I'm going to draw another one here. And notice that these lines are a bit too thick, so this time I'm going to select both of these lines, and I'm going to use the stroke panel and change the stroke thickness. There we go. All right, now we get into the arrows. So let's go on our arrow layer. Now in order to draw these arrows, we're going to actually use the arrow tool. Now we are not going to trace and create manual arrows. Illustrator has a very robust set of arrowing tools that we can use for diagrams. So let us investigate those options. Now to do this, let us use our curvature tool. Since the arrows are curved, And we're going to draw this one first. So I'm going to start here and kind of click and kind of just get that curve going like that. Press escape. All right. Now that I've drawn the arrow there, I now need to put on the arrowheads. Well, let's increase the thickness. Now this is where our stroke panel is going to come in very handy. So I need to increase the thickness of this line just a bit. Then I would need to use the arrowhead feature, which is located here under the stroke panel. So I'm going to add an arrow that looks maybe like that on one end. Let's use a different arrow. What about this one? Yeah, that one looks closer. And I'm going to add another arrow there on the other end. Now what I can do is I can change the scale of the arrow. So notice this arrow is actually a bit bigger. And how I'm changing the scale, I'm actually clicking in here and using the mouse wheel. And you can see the size of the arrow increasing there. Then I can use the direct selection tool and click at the tip here and just kind of get this arrow where it should be. And I'll do the same for that arrow. And this is great because you realize that you can really just edit these arrows anytime. So let's follow that up again. So let's do another arrow that goes this way. So we're going to use, make sure that you're on the arrow layer, and we're going to use the curvature tool again, and we're going to start here and just kind of sketch this, and we're going to end that one here. Oops. Now notice that it did that because it was trying to intersect two different lines, which you can't just join. So when you're doing this, what I would suggest is to stop just short of the line there. Press escape and then use your direct selection tool to kind of drag it down like that. There we go. Now again, we can use the same trick. We can click on this line. We can use our pipette tool and grab the arrow from this line here. Well, of course, it's going to grab both ends because the line has both arrows. So what we would need to do is to click on this line here and say, for this end, we want no arrows. Now here's an interesting one here. This one has a dashed line. Now to get this arrow going, we would do the same thing. We would start up here. This is a straight line, so I would start here. Now notice I'm not trying to start here, because if I start here, what it's going to do is extend this line. I'm going to start up here and come down like that. And notice I just stop short of it because I don't want Illustrator to join these two lines together. So I'm going to use my direct selection tool, drag that down like that, and then I'm going to perhaps use my arrow tool. Yeah, I think I'll do that. I'll use my pipette tool and see if I can grab the arrow there. There we go. And then maybe I'll just align this a little better like that. Alright, now with this arrow selected, I'm going to now use my dash line feature, which is here. And what this will do is it will create a dash line for me. Oh, let's select the line first and then enable the dash line feature like that. And I'm using the mouse wheel now to change the size of these dashes. So let's make it like that. And I can actually go in this next box here and change the distance between the dashes like that. There we go. When you change the distance here, sometimes it gets a little funny here. You need to click. You need to press enter. There. Sometimes the mouse wheel doesn't work with this, so I'm just going to type it in 5 and enter. There we go. Now here comes a little interesting part here. Now this arrow actually has, it's actually empty here. And of course Illustrator doesn't have a empty kind of head arrow like that. So instead, what we would need to do is we would need to use a feature of Illustrator called create outlines to turn this line into an outline, which basically outlines this shape here. And then we can now allow this arrow to be empty inside. So let's investigate how we would do that. Now, perhaps, let's see. We might want to, let's do it this way. We're going to go to Object. We're going to go to Expand Appearance. And what this has now done is it has now turned the arrow, here we go, into a shape, as you can see there. Now this is still a line, but this is now a shape. And notice that I'm using the direct selection tool to be able to select them separately. Now why do I do that? Well, let's use the selection tool and click on it. Now notice when I click on it, the entire line selects. I don't get the option to select just the arrowhead, and this is because this is a group. So when I use the create outlines feature, it created a group. It created one object with the arrowhead, and then it created another object with the dashed lines, and it grouped them together for me. Now if I want to be able to select just the arrowhead here, I would have to use my direct selection tool, which allows me to click on the elements that make up this group, or I could actually right click and say ungroup. So I'm going to ungroup that. So now I'm able to select these two objects separately. Now what I want to do here is I want to change this, because this is saying that my fill is black and my stroke is none. But if you look on this arrow in the background, it has a stroke and the fill is actually, well, white. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to now swap this around by pressing this button here. So now the fill is empty and the stroke is black, but we don't want the fill to be empty. We actually want the fill to be white. So we're going to choose that. And let's go to the color panel here, and we're going to choose white. Then we're going to go to the fill, to the stroke, and go to our stroke panel and increase the width of the stroke like that. That's good enough. There we go. And if we really wanted to like manipulate the arrows, we could use the direct selection tool and do that. But the objective of this is not to trace exactly what we see, but rather to digitize this diagram here. And I think we have accomplished most of that. Now these arrows are going to be very easy to do. Essentially all they are lines. So what we could actually do is, well, let's make sure that we say no fill and black stroke, and we're going to draw one of these lines. Let's start here. Let's draw the line like that, and then we can just go to our stroke panel and say, let's give it an arrowhead. Oops, it's turned the wrong way, so we can actually use the flip icon there, and we can flip that around like that. Now we can simply copy this now we can do it the traditional way. Go to edit, go to copy, and go back to edit and go to paste. Notice you see another one there. I can use my move tool and move it. But a shorter way to do this would be to hold Alt and try to move the arrow, and it will just create a copy. These are slightly angled, so I'm going to use my direct selection tool and kind of angle them a little bit like that. There we go. All right. So now we've pretty much have most of the line work done. So what we want to do now is to fill in some patterns. Now I say patterns because I don't expect anybody to manually draw in these lines, just like how I didn't expect anybody to manually draw arrowhead lines as well. Illustrator, as I said, it's the king of line work. So things like patterns and arrows and line work, they usually have a tool that's already dedicated to do just that. Now, in order to in order to get going with putting in the patterns, we need a new panel to do this, and this panel is called our swatches panel. So we're going to turn that on. You might remember Photoshop also had a swatches panel. However, Illustrator swatches panel, I would say, is a little bit more robust than Photoshop swatches panel. That might be, that's an opinion. But the swatches panel essentially gives us pre-made colors, patterns, and textures that we can use for either the fill or the stroke of a vector artwork. So what we're going to do is we're going to dock this right along here. So we're going to drag here and drag it up there like that. Good. So we can have the options up top. Now, in order to access the library for different patterns, we need to click the library icon, not to be confused with the library panel. This library option here is only found under the swatches panel. So you need to open swatches first and then go to the library option. So we're going to click the library icon here. We're going to go down to patterns, basic graphics, and then we're going to go to basic graphic lines. And we're going to pick that. And notice it opens up this library category here of lines. Now, before we get going, what we have to do first is we need to designate the object we want to apply this to. So with our selection tool, let's select this object here. Then we want to affect the fill, not the stroke. So we want to ensure that the fill is actually selected. Currently the fill is nothing, so we want to choose the fill. Then we want to choose a pattern. Now to do this, you just need to click on any one of these patterns and voila, the pattern will pop in. And there are different like thicknesses and all of that, that's there. Now your next question might be, well, it's going the opposite way. If you want to get it going the same way, then they're probably closer. Then you really need to affect the scale of this pattern. Now Illustrator does have a scale tool, which is located here. And the scale tool is used to scale anything, objects, line work. And if we're going to use the scale tool, however, when you click on the scale tool, it's essentially going to allow you to scale whatever object you have selected. Now we don't want to scale this object, definitely. See, we don't want to mess with that, definitely. So I'm going to undo this. We don't want to scale the object. What we want to scale is the pattern inside the object. Now, in order to do this, to access options for this tool, you would need to double click the scale button. Now, when you double click the scale button, you want to ensure that corners and scale, stroke, and effects are turned off. You also want to not scale the object. The only thing you want to scale is the pattern. And that is the trick to using the scale tool, right? So I am going to uncheck that, and I'm only going to check that. Now I'm going to also check the preview so that I can see what's happening here. And if I mouse wheel here, you can see that I'm actually scaling just the pattern. Now, of course, if I was scaling all of this, then you would see the entire thing scale up or scale down. But we don't want to scale the corners, the strokes, or the object. We just want to scale the patterns. Now, the next thing that we want to do, let's make that a little maybe smaller. The next thing we want to do is to perhaps change the direction of the scale. Well, to do that, then we'll just go to the rotate tool, which is located here. And we're going to repeat the same process again. We're going to double click the rotate tool. And we're going to say we only want to scale the pattern. We don't want to scale the object. Sorry, we only want to rotate the pattern, not the object. And we do want to preview what we are doing. So we are going to now use the mouse wheel again and move this around. There we go. And we're going to choose OK. All right, so that is pretty much it. So now all we need to do is apply this over here. Now we can use the pipette tool once again. I do believe we can select this object here, use the pipette tool, and just click this object here, and voila. Now what about the ground? Now obviously the ground has some patterns, but it's definitely not line work. It's more like dots. So we would need to turn back to our swatches panel here. We need to go back to our library, which is located here. And then we need to go to patterns, and this time we can maybe go to graphic dots. Now notice you're going to get these dots here. Now, with the object selected, again, make sure that you have the fill that's highlighted because you want to fill this object. You don't want to change the stroke. And yes, you can apply a pattern to a stroke. So you want to make sure that the fill is what is highlighted there. And with that selected, then let's select one of these patterns here, maybe like that. And I think that is good enough. We can even add patterns to multiple objects, so we can select that, hold shift, select that, and then select the same pattern. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right, so now with that done, we can turn off the background layer, and you see that we now have a vector sketch of this sketch interpretation. Now, the greatest thing about having something as a vector is that you can now go in and change things like the color of the fill, or maybe you want to change like the direction of the arrows. It is way easier to just manipulate these lines than to try and edit it as a vector. You know, if you don't want something to be there, you just edit it. So this has a lot of flexibility once you manually convert something to a vector. So this ends the exercise 3 of using a vector editing software.
All right, guys. So that is pretty much it. So now, as per usual, guys, as I say, it's up to you now to use the rest of the time to do the exercise, right? Most times I think we can get through the exercises, as I say, at least maybe 2 hours or an hour before it's actually the end of class time, because some of the class is supposed to be dedicated to you actually working on the project, right? And I know that it might go a little fast in real time. So what I want you guys to do is to use the rest of the time to finish this exercise, right? I would make the recording available same time, so it would give you guys the opportunity to do that. How that sound?
Sounds good, sir.
All right, cool. Now, going forward, sometimes the tutorials will be a little longer, and sometimes they will be shorter. For example, next week is going to be a critical tutorial in Illustrator, right? And this one is going to be one that you guys will use pretty much for the rest of your architectural career. So I don't want you to miss, I don't want you to miss the next exercise we're going to do, which is going to be exercise 4, and it's going to be our second Illustrator exercise, right? But that one is going to be important because I'm going to be showing you how to now enhance drawings using Illustrator. So for all your presentation drawings and presentation elevations, usually one of the most useful exercises. I mean, all these exercises are useful. That one is going to be a critical one, because when I see you guys again in 4th year, you're still using Illustrator to do the same thing that we learned in 2nd year. So I know it's a critical thing. So I want you to also see if you can get your hands on getting the tool and familiarizing yourself with the tool, because next class now we're going to jump into a little bit more advanced stuff, right? All right, so we are almost through the exercises. We have InDesign left to learn. That's going to be pretty cool, and that's going to show you how to do page layouts and how to do like the layout for your presentation sheets. So I want to give you guys the heads up. We're going to be using some of the content from your design studio project, right? Whichever one you're doing at the time. So while you are working in studio, I want to give you the heads up to save and document the content that you're using for your studio. So for example, you guys did ritual, some of you did sketches, you did scans, some of you did stuff in, I don't know, maybe you did some stuff in SketchUp, and then however you presented, did you guys print or did you have to draw for that?
Drawing, sir.
Right. So I want you say again. Right, drawing. So the digital, I want you guys to see if you can digitize the stuff that you work on in your design studio. You can take a photo of it, but scans would be nicer, right? If you can get scans of it, those of you who have a scanner or you have the little scan app on your phone, you don't need it for next week. I'm just giving you the heads up because we're going to use some of your design studio content in a few weeks time. So just hang on to all of your content and stuff. All right, so that's pretty much it for exercise 2, right? What I'm going to do, I'm going to end the class, encode the exercise and upload it same time. So you should, it's going to take about 15-ish minutes, maybe 20 minutes to convert and encode and upload and all of that. And then I want you guys to see if you can just use the rest of the class time to wrap up the exercise, if you can. All right. As usual, you have until tomorrow, right? So those of you who are not able to finish it today, just see if you can finish it tomorrow. And as usual, I'll mark it and you can check for your grades. Yeah, I see some questions. Powell.
Good night, sir. I had sent a message to you in the chat.
Oh, right. Right. Yeah. Right. So for those of you that have the technical challenges, sure, get it to me Monday. Just put it in the comment line. All right, guys.
Sir, what about? I had also said that I had the same issue for the previous assignment as well. Is that one still open?
Yes, I didn't close it. It should still be open, so you can still drop it in there. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, man. Rochelle.
Sir, when I'm doing the lines, like the curvature tool lines for the arrows, it's making more arrowheads, even though it has no arrowhead selected.
Okay, so it's making more arrowheads. So, let's see. If you have a arrow here, and let's say that you, what am I using? A stroke tool? Yeah. Go here, right? All right. So, firstly, make sure that. Okay, if you have it selected, if you have the line selected, and I'm choosing an arrowhead like this. So what are you saying? Every time you draw, it's creating an arrowhead? That's what you mean?
Okay, let me draw next one next one. Yeah, it's making an arrowhead automatically.
Whenever you draw?
Yeah.
And even though you don't have an arrowhead selected here?
Nope, I don't have any.
I wonder if it is I wonder, and which version are you using?
2022.
22?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, you can always change it from the arrowhead after you draw it, but you just get in arrowheads while you draw.
Yeah, so that when I add on an extra arrowhead, it just makes a whole system mess.
Okay, let's see. So if I have the arrowhead selected before, then, but it still doesn't create an arrowhead for me. I'm trying to replicate your challenge. Right, it doesn't. Unless you are using, but we haven't gone into the advanced stuff yet. So unless you're using the appearance, let me see. Yeah, if you are using the appearance and you enable this in appearance here. For those of you that don't know the appearance tab, don't worry too much about it. Let me see. I'm just trying to replicate your issue. But it still does do it in appearance. Right. And then I draw. Yeah, it still change it back. I don't know. How would you get arrows when? I'm trying. Look like you have to teach me that one. Because even if I choose the arrow before, I always have to draw the line and then choose the arrow after. But anyway, all right. Before I try to replicate your issue, even after you draw the line with the arrow, you're saying that when you go into the stroke and you edit the stroke setting, it doesn't change, like when you choose none?
Yeah, I can share my screen and show you.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Cool. Oh, I see some more questions coming up, but let me see this one first. So go ahead and share.
Can you see this?
Hold on, it's coming up. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So if I draw narrow, it comes up automatically, and here, nothing selected, and I'm not sure what I did. So that when I add on an arrow now, this is what it makes. This thing here. I don't know.
Right, it's like a double arrow.
Yeah.
So when you choose none, but when you choose none, there's no arrow. Oh, but there's an arrow on the other side.
Yeah. And then when I add the next one, it adds like double the arrows, and I don't know.
All right. I think it has to do, and let me see, you have your path. Yeah, you have. Okay, let me see if let me request hold on, wait, where is it again? Let me request usage. See if I can use you. All right. All right. I'm moving your mouse now, right? Good.
Yeah.
Good. All right. All right. Let me see now. So you're getting an arrow automatically. And let me check your appearance settings. We never really go into the appearance tab. We're going to do that next class, but stroke options, that is still nil. Is it a symbol? Let's see, where is symbols? Oh, no, you're not using a symbol. Oh, all right. Okay, so let me see something here. All right, so it's not the appearance tab. Go back to your stroke options. Give it a dash line. All right. Is it a thing am I clicking on here? It's an anchor point. It's a path. All right. See dashes. It almost seems like there is two dash lines here. Uh, oh, this is the one that curves it at the corners. All right. That's why I love this. You always learn something new. Now I'm intrigued by the options that you choose here. Let's see. Okay, along a path. Then that means you're using the hold on. But the type along a path tool. What is that type along a path? I mean, I could think of some scenarios where this might have been useful for me in the past, but not particularly now. Oh, this is the mitre. This is the corner of how deep you want to get this corner here. Curve it and see. All right. Let me I want you to save this file and let me play with it some more because I'm not sure. Okay, let me open a new layer and draw a circle. It's a dash line. Line. All right, so that means that if I'm on this layer, the layer based setting. So whatever you applied it to the layer. The layer.
Maybe something to do with the line setting for the layer specifically.
Right, which I've never directly messed with before. Anyway, I mean the solution is already to just create another layer and work with it. But
Okay.
I'm like I've never done this before, so that's why I'm a little bit intrigued by what you have done here. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so all right, hold on. So let me, if I delete these, just click that. Yes, delete this layer. Oh, I was going to delete the whole layer. I don't want to delete the whole layer. Just want to delete the object. Right. What are the objects you have here? Oh, that's this one there. This one. That one. By the way, how it look like you know, saved since you start working?
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
so
I'll see.
oops.
Where
Oh,
did it
sorry.
go?
No, it's here. Right. So yes, so it looks like what happened is that this is applied to the hold on. This is applied to the layer, which is interesting. Um, I need to investigate that one. So thank you for teaching me a new thing.
No problem, sir.
No, I know I did an anchor point, sorry. Yeah, there we go. It's because I'm using it through Zoom. It's not a oops. Yeah, it's a little weird with through Zoom. Oh, wait a minute. Is your keyboard Like pressing something? Or is there something resting on your keyboard or something? Is it? Or are you mouse double clicking? It's doing a weird thing when I'm selecting the tools.
So
I don't know. Let me see. Okay, step at this. Yeah, changing. I don't know why. Maybe, I don't know. All right. Anyway. Anyway, right. Let's do it on this new layer for now.
okay.
All right, cool. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Who else? Raheem. Question.
Yes, sir. I was just asking about the grades as I went onto the website and I'm not seeing it.
You're not seeing your ID?
No, the grades. Like I went on to check grades in the CSA portal and I'm not seeing anything pop up. It says
All
that
right.
file has been deleted.
Oh, wow. Um, let me check that right away.
Okay, sir.
Hold on a second here. Go computing and oh, okay. I wonder what happened there. I wonder if it's Rochelle arrows that's causing issues. Whatever happened to the Illustrator spread to I'm just troubling you. All right, let's see. The good thing about technology is that according to technology, duppies don't exist, right? So everything must be caused by a reason. So let's see what is causing this one here. What? Student grades. Okay, well, the file is there. So that means that it is an issue with the site or the link. So I'm looking on it now. I'm just checking the code to see what's happening. Let me see, does these other ones work? Class recordings, yep, that's good to go. And these other ones are here. Good. All of those are good to go. So it's just the grades. So let me see. All right, let's try it again. And nope. Okay. All right. Nothing like a little problem in the Saturday night to get the blood flowing. All right, let's see. All right, well, if it is not an immediate thing, I might have to solve this afterwards, but let's see. Oh, okay. All right. Let's refresh and grades. And we're back. All right. So thanks for pointing out that one. All right, guys. All right. Anything else? Any other hands?
Yes, sir. I have one more question. So not last week, but last Monday when we had class last time was my first class, meaning that I just joined late.
Right.
And I did not really sign up for all the website stuff, so I'm not sure if my ID number would have been added.
Cool. So all you need to do is just click this thing, register for class.
Okay.
Here, and that's it. And just submit the work. I guess you know how to use the website already. Just click on the exercise. All the submissions are on the page. So
sir, if I submitted already, it would just automatically be added.
Yes, but it depends. It depends. If you submitted after I marked the last time, then maybe not. Right. So it will come in. It will populate. Just sign up for the site and just do the work and submit, and it will eventually pop up.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Next question. Any more? I see no more hands. All right, guys. So I'm going to. Go ahead.
Sure. When would you like this assignment from?
When what?
When would this assignment be due?
Exercise, class exercise, not assignment. Right?
When would the exercise be due?
So the recommended time is we do it during class time, which is within the next hour. But I'm giving you up until tomorrow because ideally I want to mark this. Usually I want to mark it like the following day, right? So I would say tomorrow. And for those of you that are having technical issues, you can send it to me one day, right? The only thing is, if you send it to me after I mark, then you won't get your grade same time. And then eventually we close off on collecting assignments. But that's not now, that's a little later. So recommended time during class, as in I would say recommended time same day, but you can submit it the following day. All right. Yes, Levy.
Thank you.
Or is it Levy?
Yes, sir. Good evening. I'm no beside my name, sir, but I submitted the work.
Which one? This is for the participation?
When I press check grade, sir.
Yeah, when you press check grade, you're seeing where you see no. On the participation.
Oh, yeah, okay, sir. It's okay.
Right, it's for participation, that one.
So image.
Hold on, I did. Oh no, it's not transferred yet. Yeah, the second activity we did, which was image class size, that's the one where you do the calculation, right? That one should populate in the activity number 2. But that will come in when I'm marking this class exercise. So give it some time. All right. So probably by tomorrow. So when I'm marking. Yeah, Gordon.
Do we still upload this as a JPEG file?
No, PDF, please. PDF.
Okay.
Right. I think when you go to submit it, does it say? It should say. Actually, it's a JPEG. What did I call it? JPEG. No, I want you to send me as a PDF. Because. Oh, hold on. Wrong exercise. This is exercise 3. Yeah. So exercise 3 is. All right. Good thing you asked me that question because exercise 3 submission form is actually locked. I need to enable that. So let me do that now, real quick. Hang on 1 second. Exercise 3. Exercise 3, exercise 3. Okay, where are you? Here. Exercise 3. All right, so now if you click exercise 3 and go to submit, yep, it comes up and it says PDF. All right, so thank you for asking that question, or else I wouldn't realize that the form was closed. All right, next question.
Sir, I can't check my grades. Also, for the first assignment for the participation, I'm not seeing my ID number, and I did it.
Okay, and hold on. This is Garden.
Brian.
Brian. And you said you did it like on the day?
Yes, sir. I did it the same night. You have it there with the responses from the night. My name is there, but my ID number is not there saying
Oh,
yes, I
your
did
ID
it.
number not there, and you
Yes.
you
I think
registered.
the same problem is happening for me because I'm searching for my ID number and I don't see it.
All right, cool. And both of you register for the class website, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is on the class list.
Right. But not.
Excuse me, sir. Same thing for me.
All right, cool. Let's put up your hand so I can see it same time, no? And anybody else that experiencing similar symptoms? Let me see. Brian. And you say, all right, so let me look at, oh, and you say, so why is it not there? Good question. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think I see the possible reason. Hold on. All right. Check again now. Check the submission. And you say, and you guys that have your hands up, say no, you submitted using the submission form. This is the computer class activity, right? Where you check the computer specs?
Yes, sir.
Right. So do you see your, oh no, you wouldn't see your name on the, for the recommended. But I'm not seeing. I'm not. And this is the thing where you guys submitted, where you say, where you paste the computer specs in.
Yes, sir.
That's a little weird. That is a little weird.
Excuse me, sir.
Because I'm not seeing where you submitted. Even though you say submitted, I'm not seeing it there. I'm not
What
seeing
was
it
it,
there
Brian?
unless. Mm-hmm.
But say where the thing is that's hold on. For the class activity, for the first one, you post all the persons that did it and the computers that they chose and whether or not it was a good selection. My name is on that list.
But yet it's not where you did the class activity?
No, say it's not there for the participation. And my name is on the
Yeah, that is quite a paradox. Submit laptops. Unless yeah, what's up with that? Search here. All right, so what is there? Yeah, so I'm wondering if I don't know. I think some kind of error happened.
to say for the class activities for
Let me see.
1 and 2. For class activities 1 and 2, I haven't been able to check the grades. It's saying no page found. So
No, refresh. That was fixed just a while ago.
it's still not working.
Even after a refresh?
Yes, sir. Is it?
Alright, give it a little while.
Is it that for like exercise 1 and 2? My grade wouldn't be there then, despite me doing them.
No, so what? You're not seeing your ID for exercise 1 or 2 either?
So I can't check the grades.
No, man. Okay, so maybe it don't reach you yet. You say you refresh the website and it still say link not found?
Yes, sir.
Anybody else can verify that? Because it start working for me, but I don't know. Same thing for you?
Same, sir.
Sir,
I'm not seeing my ID number.
Sir, I'm not seeing my ID number here.
Right. You're able to check, but okay, cool. All right. So the issue with when you click the grades, it don't come up. That is probably it does give it a while to reach to you. Maybe it's just a website thing. I would say close Chrome or whatever you're using and open a new window, so that everything can refresh.
Sir.
As for what?
I had refreshed, but my ID is not on the grading report at all.
Right. For none of them, even the exercises?
No, sir.
Even though you submit?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's see. I have to check this thing to see if there were some edits. Today is the 10th. And we did that exercise. Sorry, not exercise, the class activity. We did that like the second week, because it's like between the 8th and the 15th. Thereabouts. Let me check. 5. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just the Google thing. I'm still on the class activity. Yeah, definitely. I'm wondering if I had deleted it or something, or moved it or something. But no, when I look in the history, I still don't see the name there. But yet still, in the laptop specs, I see a name there. Anyway, all right. Here what? I will just if you did the activity and you are not seeing your name, just tell me and let me update it directly. I'm not exactly sure what's happening with that submission list there, so I will just update the record directly. So that will solve that. So those of you who did activity 1, all you honest people in my class, right? Just tell me who did class activity 1 and are not seeing their names.
I see it, Brian.
So that is Brian.
Activity 1 being the computer specs.
Yeah, that's the one where you insert the computer specs.
Oh, no.
And then Powell, you too? This is for class activity 1, computer specs.
Sir, the problem that I was having with that activity, when I wanted to do it, it wasn't allowing me to. However, it's still showing the person's ID and whether they did it or not. Anyway, I'm just not seeing my ID number there.
Yeah, man. That's fine. That is problem number 2. So problem number 1, anybody else that did activity 1 and not seen them ID? Apart from Brian? No? Just Brian? Alright, cool. Alright. Now for the other thing, persons who did like exercise 1 and not seen them ID. So Powell.
Brian.
Same Brian again. Alright, hold on. Let me see what is happening with Brian. No, make sure.
Wait, hold on, sir. The first one you asked was number 2. The first one was if I did activity 2 and I'm not seeing my ID number.
No. Activity 2 don't mark it. Activity 1, that was the one. Right. Okay, so exercise 1, you do it, but you're not seeing your ID. And so Brian, right. So Brian, I see where I mark your work actually. Your work is actually marked.
Sir, what's the ID number that you have?
See. That's what I wonder if I have the right ID. Message me your ID number, please. See if it's the right ID I have for you. Who else? Is there anybody else? Oh, you were saying was it Powell? You're saying that you did exercise 1, but you're not seeing your ID?
No, sir. I wasn't able to do exercise 1. Like the form wasn't allowing me to submit it. However, I'm still just not seeing my ID number on the.
Oh, okay.
There.
This is exercise 1, right? Which is Photoshop that you're talking. All right.
Wait, hold on. The exercise 1 that you're talking about are you talking about Photoshop or are you talking about the laptop one?
No. We're past the laptop one. So we're talking about the exercise.
Yes, I did do that one, but I don't see my ID number there.
But you don't see your ID number. All right, cool. Yeah. Hold on, this is what I'm going. Because I mark your work too. All right, let me check the student grades. Because you're saying you're not seeing it. Right, let's see. Student grades. Hold on. But yeah, man. But me find you here. All right. So let me check the website then. Because you're saying that you're not seeing your ID, Paul.
I'm not.
When you go to the website, right? Go to check grades. Check grades. Check that ID number. No, sir. But I'm seeing it here. Paul, message me your ID, Paul. Something not connect. All right. So back to Brian. Let me see. Yes, Brian. All right. So you said this is your ID. Cool. All right. Let me check this graded sheet here. All right. Yeah, you're right. I'm not seeing this on the graded sheet. So Brian, your thing is true. Let me see. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm unable to check the grades.
Yeah, let's give it a while. It's no update for you. It seemed to be
No, like
updated.
I'm unable to go on the site at all.
Okay. All right, I think I'm fine. Yeah, I think I find the culprit here. All right, here's an issue with the ID number then, that's why. All right. Okay. Okay, yeah, there's an issue with the ID number then. Some formula mix-up thing. But they're actually marked, but so let me correct that. Let me correct the ID number thing. All right. So if you are not seeing your name, if you know you did the work and you're not seeing your ID, don't worry about it. There's an issue with the ID. So they're going to all go blank for a little while, and then they will come back after a while. All right. All right.
Would you be able to check
Okay,
if
sir.
mine was graded?
This is who? Rochelle?
Yeah.
No, you don't have to send me an ID. I can use your name.
Ah.
All right. So let me see.
I think I submitted it last class, which was my first class. I'm not sure.
Rochelle. Yeah, man. I see where your thing marked the first. You have exercise 1 and 2 marked. Yeah. Yeah, guys. So let's give me a little bit. Let me update the IDs. You might realize that you might see the IDs go blank for a little bit. Oops. What happened here? So now, of course, Google crashed. Yeah, tonight is just the night of yeah. Back here. Right. Yeah, you might see the IDs row blank for a little bit like this. Just give it a little while and it will come back. All right. All right. Who else? That's it. All right. So I don't want to hold you guys up. I want you guys to see if you can finish the exercise. Go on.
So did you check my garden as well?
If I for garden. Yeah, man. Your work mark as well. Exercise 1 and 2. Yeah. They show us with the IDs. Just some of the formulas that send it to the website. I think some of them is off. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna end the class now, right? Encode the recording, upload it so that you guys can finish up the exercise ASAP. All right. What I'll do is, Powell, I'll just send you a message when I've resolved the ID thing. All right. It might take me, I don't know, half an hour, 15 minutes or something. All right. Let me just go back through those formulas. And then you can just check back for your grades. You should see them. And those of you who are not seeing the grades thing not working, just give it a little time for reach to you. If it still don't work, you can try going in incognito mode or something. It has something to do with like your website cache not reloading or something like that. So, all right, guys. So that is it for class today in terms of the exercises, right? So I think we're able to get through everything within the first 3 hours. So that's why I'm saying that even though the class is 4 hours, time out of that 4 hours is supposed to be for you actually working. It's not just me talking for 4 hours straight. So I don't imagine that the classes will go super long for all the classes, right? Barring a little website issue that we're having now. But we'll soon solve that in a couple minutes. So I will see you guys next week, Saturday. This is our new time, right? Where we'll do exercise 4, which is going to be hardcore Illustrator, right? So just gear up for that one. The exercise is not going to be long. It's just that it's going to be critical because it's something that you're going to use all the time. It's not difficult or anything. It's just important that you get it. So I'll see you next class, guys. All right?
All right. Take care, sir.
All right, sir.
All right, guys. Take it easy.